Now back to Marquee Media Studio and the HaneyBiz Project with your host, Mark Haney.
All right. Welcome back to the HaneyBiz Project, brought to you courtesy of Comstocks Magazine and California Backyard. I'm Mark Haney, and today I am joined by one of the top guys over at the City of Sacramento. He's the Chief Innovation Officer, Lewis Stewart. How you doing, Lewis?
Man, I'm good. You're killing me.
Well, you are the reason I quit playing basketball in the 7th grade, right? Or actually, it was the 9th grade. I would go up against guys that are at least a foot taller than me. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's time to focus on, baseball, football, stuff like that. But you are here today sharing the story of the City of Sacramento. But let's get to know Lewis Stewart a little bit more. For those of us that know you, we love you. But for the rest of the city, tell us who Lewis Stewart is.
So one, I want to start by saying I'm the short one in the family. So just want to put that out there.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'8".
6'8",
yep,
okay.
Yep. But some of you guys know my brother, 6'11 and a half, and my dad, 6'10".
Yeah, your brother with the Kings for a number of years.
Yeah,
Sixth man of the year.
Yeah, something like that. That's what he tells me at least.
But you played basketball yourself.
No, I did. I got a chance to go down to Santa Clara and play, and then I went overseas for a quick second until my knees said no mas.
No mas. Okay, so who are you? What are you doing today? You've hung up the basketball sneakers, and what are you doing today?
Man, right now, trying to represent the city that raised me and raising 3 kids in the process.
Yeah, so you're the Chief Innovation Officer for the city. What does that entail? A lot.
No, it's a wide range, right? So I think the last time I was here, I was super nervous, but really it spans from boxing to self-driving cars. And anything you can color in the middle, I'm probably involved.
Now, you don't strike me as a guy that has anything to be nervous about. However, having 3 kids, I know that's like it can be a full-time thing, and then you got the full-time gig at the city. Talk to us about what's happening, what's trending right now at the city. What's taking up most of your bandwidth?
So I think right now what's taking a lot of my bandwidth is our grant programs, our autonomous vehicle kind of future, and then what we did with UC Davis recently around Aggie Square, but then just really building partnerships around the city and trying to bring more attention and investment into the city. Well,
you had me when you said grant programs. Does that mean you're giving out money? How does that work?
Oddly enough, we have a little bit that we're trying to give out. And the program is called RAILS, Rapid Acceleration Innovation Leadership in Sacramento.
Okay.
It's a $1 million grant program, really looking at how do we catalyze innovation and entrepreneurship, but also learning programs here in Sacramento. And due date is May 7th.
Due date is May 7th to turn in your grant application. Now, what type of business or organization might apply for a grant?
Sure. Really, this year we kind of opened it up. So the first time around, it was really focused on if you're building an accelerator, if you're trying to do a youth learning program, that kind of thing. This year, sure, we still have the 3 categories: leadership, innovation, and acceleration. But we're looking a whole lot broader and trying to figure out how we reach back into the community and help. So if you're a nonprofit trying to develop a working program for youth, but also for adults, come look at the program, especially under leadership. If you're a small business, if you're a startup, look at the innovation grants. But then really, if you're starting to grow and you think you have something that can scale, look at the acceleration grants.
Okay.
Obviously, different dollar values on each one of those, and really we're trying to build it around what we call the Sacramento Urban Technology Framework. And so that's looking at mobility, that's looking at food systems, that's looking at clean tech and sustainability, cyber, workforce development, and a couple other things. And so if you can find a way to fit into one of 7 categories.
How big are the grants? What is that? You say you have $1 million. How do you break it up?
No, absolutely. So the smallest grants that we give are from $20,000 to $50,000, and those are in the leadership range. From $20,000 to $100,000 in the innovation range, and then from $50,000 to $250,000 in the acceleration range.
Wow, exciting stuff. Well, okay, well let's keep it rolling here. And you talked about the autonomous vehicles, right? Are those safe? I mean, that sounds kind of scary. Those are without drivers, am I right?
Those are without drivers.
Okay, what are you working on in that realm?
Right. So one, we have an initiative that we have in Sacramento called AUTOS, Autonomous Transportation Open Standard. We actually launched it about a year ago, right after I started, or right before I started with the city. And really it is all about the learning and the safety and how human interaction happens with essentially robots, right? So for the past year, we've been developing out the platform and are actually looking to turn it into an actual institute, a global institute, with potential partnerships in China and Netherlands and a couple other countries, in partnership with universities. But really, day to day, what can people touch, feel, see? We don't have any cars on the road yet, but this month you should see a remote operated car. So basically like somebody operating a remote control car, but a real size car. So those are driverless, not truly autonomous because there's still somebody driving.
Who owns those cars?
So the companies the driving system companies do. So in this case, the company we're working with is called Phantom Auto, and the cars are actually owned by a company named Renovo.
Okay. Yeah. And what's the city's role? You have to approve it, or do you help ignite this in some way?
So more on the ignite side, right?
Okay.
So we want to bring some visibility to this stuff. As far as approving it, we're trying to make sure we work in the guidelines that are set forth by the DMV, who basically are the regulatory body that oversee autonomous cars in Sacramento or in California. Yeah. And so in Sacramento and throughout the region, we want to help DMV, we want to help Caltrans, we want to help kind of the state figure out how not to create a patchwork of regulations around this stuff, so that the cars can go from city to city, state to state, in some kind of manner, as opposed to every city having something different.
Well, we own a limo company, and I'm a little concerned that the self-driving cars are going to put us out of business. Now, how am I supposed to? What's going to happen to me? Am I going to stay alive?
Yeah, like with the limo companies, I think now the drivers can actually start being entertainers, right?
Okay. Hey, there's no doubt. Yes, absolutely. And our drivers are like that. We got the best drivers. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, no. It is. I mean, I think that's what entrepreneurship is all about. There is going to be technology changes that force us to adapt and overcome, but that's where innovation comes out, right? Don't we have to be innovative?
You actually absolutely have to be innovative and find new ways to repurpose things. So yeah, sure, there's a fear about drivers losing their job, but if you're a driver, let's figure out how we either get you entertaining in a limo or actually programming them on the other side. So
I love it. Okay, so Aggie Square, what's that? I know you're extremely excited about Aggie Square and where it could go from here.
Look, Aggie Square is something that Chancellor May talked about before he was Chancellor May. We went and met him in Atlanta, and they did something called Tech Square out there. And basically, it was how the university engaged Atlanta differently. So he wanted to come out here and do the same thing with UC Davis. UC Davis is a big part of Sacramento and the Sacramento region. But there's that mystical, magical causeway that keeps people from talking.
Yes.
And so Aggie Square is really a first effort to bring the research capabilities, the lifestyle, the culture that UC Davis is about into Sacramento and integrate it into the community.
So I'm trying to understand that. I'm having a hard time. I understand the causeway. Sure. What comes into Sacramento? What actually gets here? And then from a consumer or a citizen, how would I see it? How would I feel it? How would I experience it?
So right now you can go look at pictures.
Okay. Okay. Right now it's just a dream at this stage.
But no, it's a little bit more than a dream. There's a lot of planning that's actually going to be started by this. The first kind of Aggie Square instance is based around the Med Center in Oak Park.
Okay.
And so if you just think about the Med Center period, you're going to think biotech, you're going to think life science. And it's really, the way we see it is kind of a catalyst to bringing life science to Sacramento, and bringing, the way I look at it being a competitor, right now Sacramento is 7th on the list for job creation in life science.
Okay.
Aggie Square could easily put us in the 4th place in a couple of years once it kind of gets going. There's a potential for 2 million square feet of development. There's a potential for different kind of programming efforts, connection to ag tech, connection to mobility, and so that autonomous car thing is a real thing, because now we can figure out how we get people around the campus in autonomous shuttles. So we have to have these conversations, and so I think you're looking at probably 5 years before you truly start seeing it integrated into the community. But in those 5 years, you'll start seeing a whole lot of development happening in the city.
Well, talk to me about the ecosystem. So I know that you work with the universities. Obviously, having UC Davis in our backyard is great for the city. It's great for the entire region. We have Sac State. We have the different universities. But the entrepreneurial ecosystem, it's education, it's the entrepreneurs, but it's more than that. It's even government in some ways.
It absolutely has to be government. Look, Sacramento has always been known as a government town, and for some reason that's been a bad thing. But because, the new thinking and what we've been trying to get people to think on the innovation side is that Sacramento's the capital of the 6th largest economy in the world. And there is no reason why the government should not be looking at us to learn if policies work, to set policies, to demonstrate the viability of products, services, policies, and whatever. And as a region, we can actually probably step into that role fairly well. But then there's also the silver tsunami coming. So now there's going to be, a potential workforce shortage on the government side.
Okay.
So now we need to make sure that through Sac State's Policy Institute, through UC Davis, through UOP, we actually train up a bunch of students that are ready to step in and, really get involved in civic engagement.
Well, the silver tsunami, I have not heard that term before. Explain to me what that is and how is that going to, you say that's going to
Sure.
cramp the workforce a little bit.
Absolutely. So you figure in Sacramento region, about 1/3 of the workforce is in government. And probably 1/3 to 1/2 of that are 55 and older.
Right.
And so once you start nearing retirement age, sure, you can bring back retired annuitants all you want, but there's still going to be people that there's still going to be job openings.
Yes.
And so while government is often frowned upon, we're not trying to grow government. We're just trying to make sure that it's efficient, make sure that it's more in lockstep with what needs to happen next.
Well, thinking about innovation and entrepreneurship and all the things that are happening, will you come into a place like the city of Sacramento? How has it changed since you got there, and where do you see it going from here?
Look, right now is a great time to be in Sacramento, and I'm super honored to actually be here. And what's really changed is that people are actually starting to talk about partnership in a different way. People are not necessarily looking only towards the Bay Area for savior, right? Yeah. We actually have so much here. I think now it's just a matter of aligning stuff and making sure that the universities are part of what we're doing. Government is actually looking at new ways of operating and new things that they can actually bring in to help the citizens. But then industry that's here, that's growing, making sure that they have what they need in order to expand and stay. All of those things mixed together will help attract more business to the city, and that's an exciting time. We're getting looks from overseas, from international delegations, because we are kind of the locus of power in the state, and that's a very different conversation here in Sacramento.
Yeah, it is an exciting time here in Sacramento for us entrepreneurs, and we appreciate your leadership, Louis, and what the city of Sacramento does to help propel entrepreneurship and innovation here in our hometown. I know we share this love for this town together, and I look forward to working alongside you to help boost the opportunity here in Sacramento. Thanks for joining us today, Louis.
No, thanks for having me again. Glad to be back.
You bet. Coming up after the break, we will meet the fundraising guru, Al Frazone, the vice president for advancement at Sac State University. Join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, brought to you courtesy of Audi Rockland and DCA Capital. This is the HaneyBiz Project.